Hi, I'm Tim, welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel, right here at Watchbox Reviews. I'd appreciate it, and I'd be able to send videos of watches like this to your inbox as soon as tomorrow morning. If you like this watch, you can buy it on thewatchbox.com. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches on thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing the Grand Seiko Hi-Beat Automatic SBGH045 in titanium. A Japanese domestic market release from 2014, discontinued by 2017. It's a handsome and versatile watch. The only way I wouldn't recommend this watch to anyone would be under conditions where you must have a luminescent dial. Otherwise, this is pushing up against perfect watch status. Why? Well, let's talk about the fit. It's a 40mm case, so on my 16cm circumference wrist, perfectly proportioned. The case is relatively slim too, 13.6mm thick. It will slip underneath sleeves. Across the wrist, two ways to measure it. Lug to lug, if you were to put it on a strap, you'd find that it's 46.3mm. If you include the end links of the bracelet, it's a more substantial 49.6, but it's still compact enough that I'd recommend this watch for wrists as small as 13.5cm circumference. In titanium, it's feather light, and I should mention that Grand Seiko's high-intensity titanium is a brand name, but if I had to guess at its composition, I'd say it's probably something very similar to Grade 5, the harder upscale grade, because it can be polished and faceted. Grade 2 titanium can't be finished like this. Grade 5 can. So I strongly suspect that this is basically Grade 5 titanium under the high-intensity nomenclature. Now, the bracelet is beautifully made. It's hand-finished like the case, and you can see the bevel perfectly aligned along the flanks, the satin finish, the accents of high polish amid the satin, nicely executed, and like the case, it's executed by hand, feel, and eye. The tin plate polishing method that creates this optically smooth Zaratsu polish applied to components as well, and you're not going to find this degree of hand finishing and human involvement on a Breitling, Omega, Tag, or Rolex product these days. It's also wonderfully comfortable. As you can see, big gaps between the links to vent the wrist on the underside, and channeling, rounding of the profiles between the links to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair. As is its practice with all titanium bracelets, Grand Seiko here uses pin sleeves for sizing, but that's perhaps the only compromise I can find, as even the clasp is a twin trigger setup with the triggers themselves of high polish and a combination of polish and relieved media blasting on the Grand Seiko logo. Not a cheap clamshell and not friction fit. Twin triggers is what I like to see on a luxury watch clasp. Patek should take note. The case is incredibly complex. Look at the multifaceted end of the lug. It's like the compound eye of an insect or the faceting of a cut gem. Also, look at how the facets, the curves, the bevels, and the creases are perfectly symmetrical from side to side, despite being executed by a person working by eye and feel. You're not going to get this at Rolex. In fact, if you want to find this degree of hand finish and artisanal competence, you're probably going to have to step up to something like a Vacheron, a Patek, or an Audemars Piguet. Yes, it's that good. It merits those comparisons. There's also a lot more contouring and shapely profiling to the case than you'll find on any mainstream product, and I like that. It gives it character. You'll also note the upsweep of the lugs at each side. The caseband sweeps up to meet the midpoint of the bezel. The bezel sunken down so it's actually between the tops of the two lugs to help maintain the profile of the side of the case while preventing the watch from being too thick, because if the bezel were pressed onto the tops of the lugs rather than sunken in between them, this would be a much chunkier watch. You'll also note that the end links of the bracelet nicely profile and conform to the flank of the curvature of the case for an integrated look. Minimalist, minimally faceted, but knife-edged bezel. Look at that, how it cantilevers out, perfectly polished, perfectly creased, sharp and defining the periphery of the dial. A dial which, I should mention, is rather difficult to describe. Now, you will see photos of this watch that correspond to what my eye is seeing. On camera, it looks black, but I can tell you it's a sort of metallic gloss brown-black. In some light, it almost appears chocolate. In other light, it appears jet black. It is a bit of a chameleon, and it looks sensational. All of the indices are beautifully hand-finished and hand-applied. You have a very handmade dial here, and as I move the watch through the light, you'll see the glinting and the gleaming of the polished, profiled angles at the edge of each side of the Dauphine hands. They are wonderfully made in their own right, hand-finished right down to the micrometer measured profiles of their polished taper and fastening on each side. This is incredibly delicate work, and it speaks to the level of attention to detail that Grand Seiko lavishes on just small parts of a dial. Not even the dial as a whole. The dial is beautifully made, but even the microcosm is sensational. Counterweighted Lancet-style seconds hand and a little bit of a matching metallic brown-black sloped Rayhaut chapter ring. There's a faceted aperture, a metal aperture for the date, which is a black on silver metallic print. Even the date disc itself has a wonderful silver graining to it. You'll note the seconds hand stepping along at 10 beats per second. It is a 36,000 vibration per hour movement. A screw-down crown endows the watch with 100 meters of water resistance, so no need to take this one off the wrist when the time comes to splish and splash. You'll also note on the case back, and I'm going to try to get as close as I can here with my camera. Fix my focus. See if we can take a look at the Grand Seiko manufacturer caliber 9S85. 10 beats per second, 36,000 vibrations per hour, 37 joules, entirely in-house. From the Spron 610 hairspring to the Dia-Shock shock protection, even the oils used to lubricate the movement are made by Seiko and Grand Seiko. 37 joules, a robust number for a simple automatic, adjusted in 6 positions, better than the chronometer standard of 5, and so is the timing, as the watch is tested to -3 +5 seconds per day by Grand Seiko watchmakers. The chronometer standard, the Swiss COSC, is -4 +6 seconds per day. Of course, you have the quick set date function as well as hacking seconds. This is a manufactured product inside and out, as well as objectively beautiful, artisanally crafted by hand. And as a Japanese domestic market exclusive, this watch is rare in the West. A timepiece that's attractive to anyone except perhaps someone who needs a luminescent dial. This is a true all-around watch. See it and make it your all-around watch on the Watchbox.